Richard Holden is this extraordinary individual who thinks that he is worthy of a safe seat when he's not got one up in Durham, and he's trying to steal one from Basildon and Bilericay. And he's now under pressure from members of the Basildon and Bilericay Constituency Association, the Conservative Constituency Association, to be deselected as their parliamentary candidate. And this has all emerged in the last hour. And it's about his removal just 24 hours after he was imposed on the constituency by the Conservative Party headquarters, High Command, and it's caused significant trouble within the party during the election campaign, forcing Rishi Sunak to come running back with his tail between his legs, looking rather silly as he languishes in the polls. You know, this is really not the sort of story that should be coming out at this particular moment. It's not helping. It's hindering, and it's all about the Conservative Party chairman. You are the problem. And the association chairman has demanded a special general meeting. And the motion is that this meeting of members of the Basildon and Bilericay Conservative Association does not confirm the selection and adoption of Richard Holden as the prospective parliamentary candidate for the Basildon and Bilericay constituency. And the motion mirrors wording used in similar motions elsewhere, and it establishes the validity and precedence of that motion. So effectively, if that motion is voted on, then Holden has no constituency. He joins the list of those people who are quitting Parliament, quitting as MPs, the Conservative Party chairman. So he would be a casualty of this election campaign before there's even a vote on the 4th of July. That makes this rather spectacular. His selection was met with resistance because it was done underhand, because it was done suddenly, because it was done without any consultation with the local constituency association. And in the end, the local constituency association is the authority here. The idea of centralising everything, whether this is in the Labour Party or whether it's in the Conservative Party or the Lib Dems, it doesn't matter. You don't vote for the central command. You don't vote for the Prime Minister. You don't vote for the head of the party. You vote for your local MP. And the local MP, if I vote for my MP here in Rugby, or not, that MP, equipped with my vote, is perfectly entitled to cross the chamber of the House of Commons and sit with the opposition, to ditch one party for another. That does not trigger a by-election. This is really the fundamental principle of our elections, that our elections are about our local MP. And to impose somebody who is not part of that local choice, that local democracy, is arrogance on the part of the Conservative Party High Command. Arrogance. Now, I've heard a lot of arrogance recently because I keep my ear to the ground, and I hear what local party activists are doing in the Conservative Party, and oddly in the Labour Party and the Lib Dems, and it's fascinating. The only people I don't seem to hear from are the Reform people, and although I know some Reform people, they never seem to want to tell me what's going on, which is fine. They probably know I don't approve of them. But the local association in Basildon and Bilericay, the executive, initially rejected Holden's candidacy when they were presented with a short list of one. And they reversed their decision the next day allegedly under the threat that their local councillors would be removed from the party if they didn't. That's extraordinary. And Richard Holden answered questions before the association committee for an hour and a half. And this is a constituency that was formerly held by the MP John Barron. And I think this sort of internal squabble is part of an internal squabble which has been going on since before Brexit, and it's emerging in many different places. It's like a disease through the entire body of the party. I can't remember who said it now, but somebody said a couple of days ago that the Conservative Party hit an iceberg a long time ago, and it's been slowly sinking ever since. It is bizarre, is it not, that the last two prime ministers have both been destroyed by an iceberg. Rishi Sunak by a metaphorical iceberg in the form of the Titanic adversary, and Liz Truss in the form of a metaphorical iceberg that you could pick up from your local supermarket as an iceberg lettuce. In both cases, iceberg, straight ahead! And Liz Truss says, I'm not upset, I don't know. And Rishi Sunak, in much the same sort of voice, says, I've got a plan. But his plan doesn't work when it's part of bullying local government and local organisations, because in the end, it's the local people who turn out to vote. And it's that large local community, Middle England, on which the Conservative Party core vote depends, the One Nation Tories, which is supremely frustrated. There are many Conservative voters who now are only coming to the realisation that I had it a long time ago, that there is no party worth voting for. I'm not going to vote for the Labour Party. I may be sympathetic to a lot of the Labour Party ideas. I'm not going to vote for the Labour Party. And I don't think Rory Stewart said, what are you going to vote? Was asked what he was going to vote for, and he said, well, I'm not going to vote for the Conservatives. And I parallel that statement. I would repeat the same thing. I'm not voting for the Conservatives. And he says, well, that leaves me with voting for the Lib Dems. I'm not going to do that either. And to get round it, I was quite happy to stand myself as an independent candidate or a candidate for Rejoin EU, but the election was called rather sooner than I was ready, and so I'm not going to do it. But I'm not the only person who finds himself without a party. Why? Because the party has moved so far away from what I believe. I was always fairly to the left of the party, but now I don't recognise it. It's not something I can support. And so often I find that my views are much closer to the views of the Labour Party. In some cases, I've told the story many times how Piers Corbyn and I had a conversation about party positions with respect to education. And I said, well, actually, I think I'm to the left of your brother. And he said, no one's to the left of Jeremy. And we thought that was very funny. But at some point I will explain that, but it's not worth doing so now. Anyway, these challenges to the chaos, to the Conservative Party, the chaos in the Conservative Party, exemplified by the disputes in constituencies like Portsmouth South, the actions of the replacement of David Duguid, the Scottish leader Douglas Ross in East Moray and North Aberdeenshire, after doing its spinal surgery. That's one thing. Douglas Ross, I think, is a real positive. He's one of the positives in the Conservative Party. But Holden's papers may have been submitted, making the move to deselect him look as if it's too late. But I think local members are prepared to contest the decision. And that highlights the strife within the party. It could mean that the constituency has no Conservative candidate. And my own hunch is that the local association probably will be quite content with that, rather than have one imposed from on high. And that may well mean that the entire band of councillors are deselected. But in the end, it won't just be the councillors that will vote against this. It will also be the local members of the association. And, yeah, the Conservative Party can throw them all out. But if it does that, then it is establishing itself as a tyrannical organisation. It's confirming exactly what they are disapproving of.